here is part 1 of my theory series on what if Peyton Manning did not sign with the Broncos in 2012. In this first video, he will sign with the 49ers. So, let's get into it. So it's March 2012 and Peyton Manning signs with the 49ers. So then the first question is, what happens with the 49ers quarterbacks? Because remember, they have Alex Smith, who just had his best season in 2011, almost got the 49ers to the NFC Championship. And of course, now second year, Colin Kaepernick, who later on would take over Alex Smith's starting job in 2012. For Alex Smith, he will be traded. And funny enough, he would be traded to the Chiefs a bit earlier. And as for Kaepernick, he would be the backup. He's still under contract through 2014, so he'll be the backup and potentially be the successor for Peyton. So then what happens with the Broncos since they don't have him right now? I think, and this is going to apply to all 4 of the parts of this theory coming up, they're going to stick with Tebow for right now. So now let's get into the seasons. So, and for the 49ers in 2012, Peyton, in terms of touchdowns, I believe statistically he was better than both Alex Smith and Kaepernick combined. But despite that, the 49ers actually do slightly worse in this timeline. Instead of going 11-4-1, they fall to 11-5. And for the Chiefs with Alex Smith, with a much better quarterback, they actually do much better because the 2012 Chiefs, yeah, they went 2-14, but they had a lot of really close games, and they had a pretty good defense too. And Jamal Charles, I believe, top 5 in rushing yards that year. So they actually improved to 8-8, almost making the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Broncos with Tebow, they would struggle as they regressed to 7-9. So in the updated 2012 standings, the Patriots now have the number 1 seed as the Texans move up to number 2, the Bengals move up to number 3, the Chargers make the playoffs with the 4th seed, and the Ravens fall to the 6th seed. And the NFC, the Seahawks move up to the 2nd seed, and the 49ers fall all the way down to the 5th seed. So for the 49ers, they would start off at the Redskins. And since the 49ers are just as good as the Seahawks and possibly maybe even be better now with Peyton, I think they'll win just like the Seahawks did. Then they would be heading to the Falcons, the conference championship rematch a week earlier. Now remember, the 49ers did win this game in a close one after they were down 17-0. But now they have Peyton, who did not play that good in the divisional round. And it's going to come back to bite him, as this time the 49ers would not beat the Falcons. So the conference championship would be the Falcons hosting the Seahawks, which they would win just like they did in real life. So Super Bowl 47 is the Texans and the Falcons, as I think the Ravens would not be able to beat the Texans like they did in the regular season. And the Texans were struggling at that point. The Falcons were still playing pretty good despite their struggles in the playoffs, and I think the Falcons would hold on to get the win. So now in 2013, Peyton, with his MVP season, would have the 49ers playing much better than what they had with Kaepernick. So they improved to 14-2 as the Broncos continue to struggle as they finished 7-9 once again with Tebow. So in the updated 2013 standings, the 49ers have the number 1 seed as the Saints move up to the 2nd seed, and the Seahawks fall to the 5th seed, and the Panthers fall to the 2nd seed. And the AFC, the Patriots move up to number 1 seed, the Chiefs move to number 2, and the Chargers move up to the 5th seed as the Titans manage to get in as the 6th seed. But once again, we will stick with the NFC side as the 49ers would host the Panthers in the divisional round. Now the 49ers beat them, remember, in the playoffs pretty convincingly, and Peyton, I believe, played better than Kaepernick in that game. Plus, they're at home now, so they will win it. So the final game in Candlestick will be the NFC Championship as they host the Seahawks. Now remember, that game, they played each other in real life, but it was at the Seahawks instead. And the 49ers almost won it despite all the struggles they had against the Seahawks during the early 2010s, during that huge rivalry era. They almost did beat them. If it wasn't for that interception deflection at the end of the game, the 49ers might have even been able to beat them. So, and with Peyton playing better that week than Kaepernick, despite the fact that he did so bad against the Seahawks, I'm picking the 49ers to win it this time. So Super Bowl 48 is now the Patriots and 49ers. The Super Bowl that we know the NFL would love to have Brady versus Manning in the Super Bowl. Now, Peyton struggled in the Super Bowl really badly. But the Patriots were also struggling really badly too. They were not that good of a team compared to previous years. But with the 49ers still overall being better, I think the 49ers, despite Peyton's struggles, would win to get their first title in 19 years. So now into 2014, with the Super Bowl title, the 49ers begin their title defense. And at first, they had a really strong start. Because remember, in 2014, the first half of the year, they were 4-4 before they had won 3 in a row to wrap up near the middle of the year. And then they lost 4 in a row to finish 8-8. So at first, they have a really strong start because Peyton played really good. But then the final half of the year where Peyton began to struggle, like Kaepernick did, the 49ers began to regress a bit. In the end, they fell to 10-6. As the Broncos bottom out as they finished 4-12 in Tebow's final year with them. So in the updated 2014 standings, the Cardinals now have the number 1 seed as the Seahawks fall to the 5th seed. And the AFC, the Colts move up to the 2nd seed as the Chiefs make the playoffs at the 4th seed. The Bengals stay at the 5th seed, and the Chargers make the playoffs at the 6th seed as the Ravens miss out. But in the end, nothing would change the results. Now in the 2015 offseason for the 49ers, this would be Kaepernick's free agent year. And since Peyton would play almost the entire last 3 years, Kaepernick never really would have been given an opportunity to show himself as a starter potential. So Kaepernick would not be re-signed and he would just fade away out of the league, basically. So then in 2015, the 49ers would struggle massively. They would have a massive nosedive, and Peyton, of course, struggled after the first half of the year, and they would bottom all the way down to 3-13. Meanwhile, for the Broncos, they would probably have a journeyman quarterback or whoever, and they would play better thanks to their strong defense too, but they would only improve to 7-9. So in the updated 2015 standings, the NFC would not change. The AFC, the Patriots have the number 1 seed. The Bengals move up to the 2nd seed. The Chiefs win the AFC West, so they're the 3rd seed. The Steelers move up to the 5th seed, and the Jets make the playoffs as the 6th seed. And without the Broncos being in the way, Super Bowl 50 would now be the Panthers and the Patriots. Now, before I always thought the Panthers would probably win it if it was the Patriots because the Patriots were struggling at that point. But you know what? The Patriots, despite their struggles, just as good as the Broncos were, and of course they had the much better quarterback in Brady than Peyton did, so if the Broncos could spank the Panthers as they did, how on earth could the Patriots not do the same thing? So this time around, the Patriots would win it. And that's where this first part of the Fury lasts off, as Peyton would retire at the end of the year. Now the 49ers, with their record, possibly could be within the number 1 and 2 seed category in the draft order, so they could possibly pick up Wentz or Goff maybe. Otherwise, they're going to have to bomb out the next 2 years. But who knows? Maybe if they don't have a quarterback, maybe they can get Mahomes, Watson, or Trubisky, or whoever in 2017 possibly. And the Broncos, of course, they're going to need a quarterback too. Maybe they probably still pick up. But the main question now is, would the 49ers be better with Peyton in this scenario than they were with Alex Smith and Kaepernick? Well, they would make the playoffs 2 times like they did in real life. They would have 3 winning seasons instead of 2. They would have a 4-1 record in the playoffs instead of 4-2. They would make it to the NFC Championship one time instead of 2. But they would make it to the Super Bowl 1 time, but this time winning it. So I think overall, the 49ers would have been better in this scenario with Peyton. They would have a Super Bowl title, and they would be the exact same spot right now as they were otherwise. Hey, at least they would have a win instead of a loss like in 2012. And they would have to begin rebuilding the pieces, just like they had to do in real life. But hey, it's just a theory, an NFL theory. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first part of the theory where I talk about Peyton signing with the 49ers. The next part will be me talking about them if he signed with the Titans. After that, it'll be the Cardinals, and then wrapping up with Patrick Lynch. Time for part 2 where he signs with the Titans instead.